Hello and welcome. Today we're diving into a really radical new idea in cancer treatment. And get this, it's not about a fancy new drug. It's about a completely new strategy, one that's all about unlocking the full power of our own immune systems, just by getting the timing right.
Look, cancer immunotherapy has been called a miracle, and for good reason. It's a genuine revolution. But here's the tough question that has kept scientists and doctors up at night. If this stuff is so revolutionary, why doesn't it work for most patients? That's the huge puzzle we're going to try and solve today. And that question gets right to the heart of what we're calling the immunotherapy paradox. It's this massive gap between the incredible, life-saving promise of these drugs and the frustrating reality that so many people face. Now, the treatment at the center of all this is called immune checkpoint therapy, or ICT. The easiest way to think about it is that these drugs literally take the brakes off your immune system. They help it finally see and hunt down cancer cells that were basically hiding in plain sight. And this is the paradox in a nutshell. We see these amazing, transformative success stories, people whose lives are saved. But the cold, hard truth is, for most patients, the treatment just doesn't work. What's a miracle for one person is a dead end for another. And for the longest time, we haven't really understood why. So for years, the thinking was, okay, let's try to predict who will respond. Scientists would look for static clues, things they could measure in a tumor biopsy before treatment even started. Think of it like taking a single photograph, a snapshot in time. But these biomarkers, well, they turned out to be pretty lousy predictors. Which brings us to a groundbreaking idea. What if we've been missing a crucial ingredient all along? What if that missing piece of the puzzle is time? It's about shifting our whole perspective, from looking at a static snapshot to watching a dynamic movie. And this is a huge shift in thinking. Instead of just asking, what does the tumor look like at the very start, we're now asking, how does the immune system actually react in those first few critical days and weeks? We're moving from a single photo to the whole feature film, looking for dynamic events like sudden bursts of immune signals. It turns out the process, the reaction, is what really matters, not just the starting point. This entire idea is captured perfectly in the analysis we're digging into. It says that the outcome depends not just on which drugs you combine, but crucially on when you give them. It all boils down to timing. So, if the immune response is a movie, what does the plot actually look like? Well, let's break it down into what we can call the 3-act immune response. This is the immune system's battle plan. This movie has 3 distinct acts. First, there's the situation before treatment even begins. Then you have the absolutely critical first 2 weeks. And finally, the late phase, which is where the war is either won or lost. Let's look closer. In Act 1, a tumor that's already a little bit primed, meaning it already has some immune cells hanging around, is more likely to respond. But the real decider happens in Act 2. In patients who respond, there's this powerful but very brief flare-up of immune signals, what's called an IFN burst. It's like a system-wide alarm bell going off. This flare is what wakes up the killer T cells that are needed to destroy the tumor later on. In non-responders, that flare is just a weak fizzle. So how in the world can we watch this movie in real time without doing a million painful biopsies? The answer is this absolute game-changing tool called circulating tumor DNA, or ctDNA. These are tiny bits of cancer DNA floating in the blood. By measuring them, doctors can see if the tumor is shrinking almost as it happens. A quick, sharp drop in ctDNA is one of the very first clues that the treatment is actually working. Okay, so now that we can watch the movie, we can start to direct it. This new understanding lets us go from just throwing drugs at a problem to actually conducting a treatment symphony where every part works in perfect harmony. Think about it like this. A treatment like radiation creates a wave of immune activity. On its own, that wave might just fade away. But if you time the next treatment, the immunotherapy, to hit right at the peak of that first wave, you don't just add to it, you amplify it, creating this massive synergistic attack. This gives us a really clear 3-step battle plan. The doctor becomes like a conductor. First, they prime the immune system with something like radiotherapy to get that initial flare going. Second, right in that perfect window, they unleash the immunotherapy to wake up the T cells. And third, they adapt, using ctDNA to see if the plan is working and make changes on the fly. Because getting the timing wrong isn't just ineffective, it can be a disaster. For instance, right after surgery, the body goes into this natural immune-suppressing wound healing mode. If you give an immune-boosting drug right then, it's totally counterproductive. It's like hitting the gas and the brake at the exact same time. Nothing good is going to happen.
So, what does this all mean for the future? This new way of thinking about timing isn't just some interesting science. It points to a completely new way of treating patients. And this is exactly where the research is headed. Scientists are now trying to get a super high-resolution movie of the immune response. They're developing computer models to predict the perfect timing for different cancers. And they're even designing time-adaptive clinical trials, which are a huge deal. It means they can actually change a patient's treatment plan midstream based on what the real-time data is telling them. If you only remember one thing from all this, let it be this. This is a fundamental paradigm shift. We are moving away from looking at cancer as a static problem that we just hit with a hammer, and we're starting to see it as a dynamic, complex system that we can guide and influence over time. And that leaves us with a pretty incredible thought. Maybe the next giant leap forward in the fight against cancer won't come from a new pill or something in a vial. It might just come from a clock. It might come from finally truly understanding the power of time.